Hi everyone! In this video, I'd like to talk about two words that have slightly similar sounds but very different meanings: explicit and implicit. Explicit information is information that is very clearly stated, like, he was happy. Simple and straightforward. Implicit information, on the other hand, is information that is implied between the lines, so you have to interpret it a little bit. Instead of saying he was happy, you could say he left the room with a spring in his step. Now you can tell just from the way he's moving that he's in a good mood. This ties back to the activity we were doing in the previous video, where we found out that synonyms for different colors carry different implicit information inside of them. Lightness, darkness, texture, value, or maybe even positive and negative connotations that the author makes connections with or the reader makes connections with. For example, let's say the author's had a very bad experience with apples in the past, and we know that. So when he compares something to apples, we know it's not a very positive connotation. On the other hand, maybe he loves apples and you don't. And so what you get is that fairly gross appley feeling you've had from your bad experience, even if that's not what the author intends. The thing about implicit information is it can be very subjective. What information you think you're putting into the words might not necessarily be what the reader gets out of it. The reason explicit information is useful is if you want to say someone is sad, you can very clearly just state, he is sad. For writing purposes, though, that's often quite boring. It has its place if you just want the observation or the moment to pass quickly. But if you really want to put your reader within the scene, if you really want them to see through the eyes of the observer, you can't just tell them people are sad. This is where activity 2 comes in. You're going to write a passage of about 5 lines describing someone that you see across the street. You have to try and convey how that person is feeling without using any emotion words. I mean, you cannot say they look anxious or worried or sad or happy or excited at all. So what are you going to use? Well, you're going to use verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. With the verbs, adverbs, and adjectives in your toolkit, you still need to figure out what exactly you're going to focus on. What are you going to do if you can't talk about how the person is feeling? Well, you can still talk about how they're feeling, but you imply the information within what you are seeing. We can focus on 4 major things for a person: their expression, their body language, their movements, and their voice. So when I talk about their expression, that's simple enough. It's the expression of their face. Talk about the furrow of their brow or the fact that they're biting their lip or their eyes dart side to side as if they're looking for something. For body language, talk about their posture. Talk about if they're standing particularly straight or their shoulders seem to be carrying attention to them, or if they're slouched or slumped against a wall. For how they're moving, that's tied closely to body language, but it's more about their gestures. Do they move in a very sharp, quick, and precise manner, or are they more fluid and relaxed and languid? Do they raise their arms dramatically to the sky, or do they just not really move much at all? And lastly, we can talk about their voice. We can talk about their tone, whether it's hard or soft. We can talk about the loudness of their voice. Maybe they're shouting for some reason. We can talk about the words they choose to use. Maybe they're so angry but need to remain so formal that they start using very precise, clipped language. Maybe they speak too fast because they're trying to get out of the situation as fast as possible, or they're afraid of saying the wrong thing, and so they hesitate. Putting all of that together allows you to paint a picture not just of how a person is feeling within that moment, but can allow you to make a broader picture of a person's personality. We'll talk about character creation in more detail later on, because there's so much more to consider. But for now, just pick that one moment where you see someone across the street and try and tell us how they're feeling without actually saying it. Alright, I hope that was clear. See you guys for the next video.